Good afternoon, everybody.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar. Can you hear me?
Namaskar, sir. Yes, yes. Now we can hear you. We can see you. I think we can start the session, sir.
Please,
With your permission, sir.
please.
Okay, sir. आप सभी का आज के दूसरे टेक्निकल सेशन में हार्दिक स्वागत है. A very good afternoon to all of you in the second technical section of the day. In the morning, we had inaugural session in which Honorable Prime Minister had addressed all of us, and he emphasized on how new education policy is contribute to social development, individual development, and the national development, and how it is a future-ready policy. We were fortunate to hear him in the morning session. After that, we in the first technical session, which was on holistic, multidisciplinary and futuristic education, we had Professor D.P. Singh, who chaired the session along with Professor Najma Akhtar, Vice Chancellor from Jamia University, Professor M.K. Sridhar, member Draft NEP Committee, and we had Professor E. Suresh Kumar from English and Foreign Language University. Now I welcome each one of you in the second technical session. And this technical session is going to focus more on research. So how to catalyze quality research. So I welcome the chairperson of the session, Professor K. Vijay Raghavan, and other speakers of the session, Professor Manju Bhargav, who is joining us from Princeton, and who is also a member of committee for Draft NEP. We have Professor Bhushan Patwardhan with us, who is Vice Chairman, University Grants Commission, and Professor Anurag Kumar, is former Director, Indian Institute of Science. Although Professor Vijay Raghavan needs no introduction, but still I would like to briefly introduce you, sir. Currently, Professor Raghavan is Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India. He was instrumental in establishing the National Center for Biological Sciences at Bangalore under the aegis of Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. His fields of specialization are developmental biology, genetics, and neurogenetics. He also served as Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. And prior to that, he was Director of the National Center for Biological Sciences, Bangalore, where he continues as a distinguished professor. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and chairing this very important session. And now I hand over the session to you, sir, to take it over. To you, sir.
Thank you very, very much. It's a great pleasure to be here today with all of you. And I had, as all of you did, the pleasure of listening to the talks this morning from the Prime Minister, from the Honorable Minister for Education, the Minister for State, the Secretary Higher Education, and everyone else. This has been truly a very, very important day for education reform in the country, with the NEP going ahead with such enthusiasm and speed. One of the most important aspects of education is research. That is, education and research are closely connected with each other and feed to each other. Both will suffer. And if research suffers, the future of the country and indeed the planet suffers as much as if education suffers. Education alone without research is of no value, and research cannot go on without broad education. The principal challenge in our ecosystem with respect to research has been just that. Our research, even where it has been extraordinary, is not of a large enough scale of quality. And even when it has scaled with quality, it hasn't reached a very large part of our community. As it's often been said, 90% of our students go to state universities, and the university system there doesn't have sufficient research going on, with, again, notable exceptions. Colleges are in even more of a dire situation, and schools where the seeds of research need to be sown also do not have sufficient research and critical thinking over there, which is something which the NEP addresses substantially. It's often been said that the way to address this is by more resources. And there's no question that resources are important and essential, and there should be ways of increasing resources. But at the heart is a cultural issue. And the cultural issue is that of two kinds. One, you cannot have research unless it's deeply in our day-to-day practices and inspired by that. Even if you are an abstract mathematician, your environment inspires you. And you can be a great mathematician without links to your roots, but that requires extraordinary genius. We're missing out on the median population of brilliant mathematicians who will do very well with connection to their roots if we have an education system and a research system which is not connected to our roots. That connection to our roots comes from a cultural connect and also a language connect. And therefore, the language of research must be accessible to everyone, and everyone must be able to do research in languages. This poses a seemingly important challenge to us, which is not easily overcomable, but it can be overcome in today's world. It's possible to have every bit of your education and research done bilingually in English and your native language, so you can excel in the language of the world as well as excel in English for your research. So this is eminently feasible. But more fundamentally, it also requires a certain Atma Vishwas, a self-assurance that you can take on big problems and a desire to take on big problems. And therefore, we need an integrative scheme by which people's self-confidence in research goes up, along with deep content and methodology being developed. So I will stop here. These are the important issues which we need to address. We have an extraordinary panel. Dr. Manjul Bhargav, professor of mathematics at Princeton University, has been spending a substantial part of his time in helping develop the NEP, the National Education Policy, and has worked with our team to develop the National Research Foundation documents, which are a critical aspect of the NEP. Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan, the Deputy Chairman of the University Grants Commission, is a well-known researcher from Pune. He has got a great experience of research in an environment which is distant from the central government. And then we have Dr. Anurag Kumar, who till recently headed the over 100-year-old Indian Institute of Science, which about a few years ago, 5 years ago, started an undergraduate program. And but for its absence of significant work in humanities and social sciences, is an icon for all of India to emulate. We need many, many Indian Institute of Science. So I will now move on to our eminent panel and request Manjulji to kick off with his views. Over to you, Manjul.
Thank you very much, Vijayji. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, please, go
Can
ahead.
you hear me? Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. Adarniya Shiksha Mantri Dr. Pokhriyalji, Secretary Shri Amit Khareji, UGC Chair Professor D.P. Singhji, UGC Secretary Rajneesh Jainji, Committee Chair Dr. Kasturi Ranganji, Co-Committee Member Professor M.K. Sridharji, Co-Panelists Professors Bhushan Patwardhan and Anurag Kumarji, PSA Professor Vijay Raghavanji, और आप सब उपस्थित विद्वानों और विद्यार्थियों को मेरा सादर नमस्कार। मुझे सभा में बोलने का अवसर देने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। Since the theme of this session is catalyzing quality research, I thought I would say a few words today about the need to create a vibrant culture of research across India's higher education system, as indeed is recommended by the National Education Policy. Homegrown research is truly the need of the hour. Quality research across the sciences, social sciences, humanities, arts, and more is desperately needed to enable India to reach new heights and to solve its own problems regarding water, sanitation, poverty, climate change, education, health, and more. Widespread quality research is also truly needed to achieve the goals of the Honorable Prime Minister's Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. So I thought I'll start by summarizing where we are now in this journey, and then I'll say a little bit about what higher education institutions, and in particular the esteemed vice chancellors who are here with us today, can do to foster research cultures in their own institutions. And then finally, I'll talk about what the government can do to develop a culture of research across the nation. So first, where are we now? At the time of independence, a grave mistake was made in separating research from education. What has resulted today is that most students attend universities and colleges where little or no research takes place. And as Dr. Kasturi Ranganji noted earlier, one cannot have top-notch education where high-quality knowledge creation also does not take place. Indeed, as Vijayji just mentioned, today over 90% of our students and faculty in higher education are at state universities, where research is currently extremely limited. And this means that most PhDs in India, right, most of our faculty are at state universities, and that means most PhDs in India do not conduct research. And most students today, over 90% of them, study at universities that have few research opportunities. This is really a waste of talent. And it has resulted in India having far fewer researchers per lakh population than most other advanced countries. There are only about 15 researchers per lakh population in India, 15 out of every lakh, while there are about 111 per lakh in China, 423 per lakh in the United States, and 825 per lakh in Israel. India has only 15 per lakh. So a very stark difference. We must change this scenario as soon as is possible to bring India back to being a leader in research and innovation. This is very important. And this can only be done by bringing research back in a strong way across higher education institutions, not just the research institutions, but across all higher education institutions where all our PhDs work. So what can higher education institutions and their vice chancellors do to foster a culture of research in their institutions? Well, the most important initiatives are, and these are three of the most important initiatives that are described in the national education policy at the institutional level. First, institutions must encourage and empower faculty to innovate. Innovate in their teaching, innovate in their service, and innovate in their disciplines. They must be encouraged and empowered to innovate. Second, incentives must be given to faculty to innovate and to conduct research by way of promotions, strong tenure and tenure track systems, salary increases, reduced teaching, and of course, recognitions of outstanding work. This would help create an ecosystem where research and innovation are rewarded and appreciated. And third, students must be involved in the research process so that innovation and critical thinking gets seeded into their learning and into their personalities for life. So I earnestly request all higher education institutions and all vice chancellors to please go ahead and urgently make these three changes to the culture of their institutions. The country needs this as soon as possible. And then finally, what can the government do to support these initiatives and create a culture of research nationwide? For this purpose, the National Education Policy recommends the establishment of a National Research Foundation that will aim to seed, foster, mentor, and fund outstanding research at all higher education institutions, especially state universities, in a strong, merit-based, but equitable way. So the aim of the National Research Foundation will be to, first of all, fund competitive, peer-reviewed grant proposals of all types and across all disciplines in an equitable manner across all geographic regions, types of universities and colleges, and socioeconomic groups and genders. Second, the aim of the NRF, National Research Foundation, will be to seed and grow and facilitate research at academic institutions, particularly at state universities and other universities and colleges where research is currently in a nascent stage, through the mentoring of such institutions by established researchers. Third, the NRF will aim to act as a link between researchers and relevant branches of government, as well as industry, so that research can be translated and implemented as soon as possible. At the current time in our ecosystem, there's a gap between researchers and government and industry. The NRF would function as a link among all three to get research implemented as fast as possible and to make researchers aware of what are the important problems for the country at the current time. And finally, the NRF, the National Research Foundation, will aim to recognize outstanding research and progress achieved via NRF funding and mentoring across subjects through prizes and special seminars, national seminars that recognize the work of the researchers, thereby further incentivizing innovation in the country. So this National Research Foundation, though funded by the government, would be governed by top researchers from across disciplines, independently of the government, in order to ensure that the research focus remains at the highest level and to ensure the highest integrity of the use of research funds. So in conclusion, given the immense talent within India, we believe that with these initiatives at the institutional and the national level, India can again reach great heights in research and innovation and move quickly towards becoming Atmanirbhar Bharat. So thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Manjulji. This was very eloquently put about how one can take research and education together and the role of the National Research Foundation and how it is structured. A truly independent National Research Foundation is absolutely necessary to take this agenda to completion. And I'm sure that that will happen very soon. I now move on to Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan for his comments.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay. I will start with a good news. Dr. Vijay Raghavan, as our principal scientific advisor, I think the first step is moving in the right direction. I think that is happening. So I just wanted to give you some data from Web of Science. So India was ranked by research publication volume. I am happy to tell you has increased from 9th in the last decade to 5th in 2019. The global baseline for share of articles in Q1 and Q2 journals, which is about 73%, and Indian academia document share has increased from 57% to 62% in 2019 with CNCI 0.81. What does this mean is category normalized citation impact, global average, which is 1, India is moving towards it. And all the highest seems to be in UK academia, which is about 1.47. Our immediate goal in India should aim to cross 1. When I say this, as Dr. Manjul Bhargav rightly pointed out, in India, the academia and research institutes are divided. So when I have a look at CNCI of academia and research institute, the message is very loud and clear that academia has actually done much better even than standalone research institutes. And in this, obviously, in the top in the rank is Indian Institute of Science, AIMS, and a couple of IITs. But IIT Roorkee and University of Delhi, as well as IIT Bombay, have already crossed CNCI 1, which is a very, very good and powerful sign, which is that we are going in the right direction. And others are on the verge of really crossing that barrier. When I come to universities, I must tell you that although universities are encountering several problems, and I'm happy to see several Vaishnathas here, they are also struggling very hard to attend these problems. Despite all these limitations and problems, universities in India have done fairly well, I would say. Top in the list, of course, is University of Delhi with CNCI 1.03, and followed by Banaras Hindu University, Jadavpur University, Vellore Institute of Technology, Anna University, Manipal Academy, Punjab University. Punjab University actually has CNCI 1.25, which is really excellent. University of Kolkata is there, Aligarh Muslim University, JNU, University of Hyderabad. These are some of the shining examples. And some of the state affiliating universities also to me, have done a remarkable job, because we must understand that when a university is having hundreds of affiliating colleges, it is very challenging to really strengthen and promote this kind of a research. And Dr. Vijayaraghavan rightly mentioned that it's the issue of research culture, and not only resources. So from that perspective, I just wanted to now come to what kind of research support schemes are available. So I must tell you that India probably is the only country, and Dr. Vijay may correct me, or Dr. Manjul, but I have not seen any other country where such a huge number of research fellowships are given by the government. For instance, UGC, CSR, NET, JRF, 10,000 fellowships are available. There are, in addition to this, there are 5,000 fellowships available for SC, OBC, minority category doing PhD. At the same time, postgraduate scholarship of about 8,000 are available. For Northeast, Ishan Uday, undergraduate scholarships are about 10,000, and research fellowships are available in addition to what I have told you from ICSSR, AICTE, DBT, DST, DAE, ICR, etc. In addition, there are several research grant schemes, by various departments and various councils. And the Ministry of Education also is hosting many innovative research grants such as Spark, Imprint with ICSSR, Gyan with IIT, STAR with Indian Institute of Science, and STRIDE, which is actually the in-house UGC program, for which I will just talk a little bit sometime later. But we hope that National Research Foundation will bring convergence of all this which is happening and improve the efficiency of the whole system. Now, at the UGC, we were also concerned about how to improve quality of research, because all of us know that quality of research in Indian universities, especially the PhD research, has been a big problem. And so Balaram committee worked very hard on that, and they have given certain recommendations regarding research capacity building as well as how to promote research culture. So they have talked about improving classroom pedagogy, curriculum and system assessment, developing writing skills, research aptitude and awareness, improving the peer review culture even within the institutes, promoting academic integrity, remedial teaching, exposure to centers of excellence, a workshop to exchange ideas, use of technology and media platforms, and some kind of internships for PhD students, including policy internships. They also have given a lot of recommendations regarding faculty, faculty recruitments, because many universities are facing this problem of faculty crunch. Many posts are vacant. So this kind of a faculty recruitment drive, which will help, then seed grants for new faculty, sabbatical leave, postdoctoral fellowships. We have to increase number of postdoctoral fellowships, because US, as we know, a majority of their strengths of research have come through PDFs. The travel grants, the annual faculty research conclave, teaching assistantships, and while doing PhD, many students do undertake teaching, and new education policy talks about this and opens up those opportunities of teaching assistantship while you are doing PhD. Then performance-based strengthening of existing schemes such as universities with potential for excellence or Department of Special Assistance and things like that, as well as inter-institutional collaboration. We many times talk about international collaborations, but it is also important that inter-institutional collaboration within India is very important. And they have also talked about giving new positions like Dean of Research to facilitate the whole thing, and improving linkages between colleges and universities. Because in this pyramid of higher education, the base of the pyramid actually is state universities and colleges. So the linkage of this base with the top of the pyramid is very, very important. When I give you this background, now I come to little dark side of it. What has happened during last couple of years, somehow, because of some regulatory requirements or because of some compulsions, research was looked as some kind of a qualification like PhD, which will make them eligible for certain jobs, including teaching jobs. And so there was a huge pressure, or I would say desperation, to do research. So research was not necessarily done because of the curiosity driven or because of the interest driven mode, but it was more for compelling some kind of a mandatory provisions which has led to the desperation of research. So research degree became mere eligibility qualification requirements, or maybe in some cases, and this is really we have to address this issue. I have seen in many universities, students are going to post-graduation and then to PhD just to postpone their unemployment. So PhD fellowships also sometimes seen as a livelihood measure. So these are the issues we have to address and see what best can be done. The rigor of research needs to be properly addressed to. The academic integrity and publication ethics has become a major problem in India. As you know, majority of the poor quality publications coming out from India are getting in predatory journals. So to address this issue, UGC has come out with academic and research ethics, Consortium for Academic and Research Ethics, now known as CARE. So UGC CARE has come out with a list of quality journals, which we hope that universities are using in an increasingly number, and quality of new recruitments as well as quality of PhD research will go up. We are also in a process very soon to publish a document called Good Academic Research Practices. So these good practices will be soon published, which will help the universities to improve their quality of research as well as cultivate and nurture the research culture within their universities. Lastly, I would say that transdisciplinary research is going to be very important, not just STEM-related research, but humanities and social sciences are equally important. And for that purpose, UGC has come out with scheme for transdisciplinary research for India's developing economy. This actually has three components. One is in research capacity building, other is in social innovation and research in national development, and third is in high impact research in humanities and human sciences. We hope that this will help the Atmanirbhar Bharat and stimulate research which is local, need-based, nationally important, and globally significant. ICSSR has come out with a scheme called Impress, which is also receiving a lot of important attention, and a lot of projects which are related to national and social issues in India are being supported. I would now actually stop my presentation, but I would be really open for more question answers if they come for. My last point is, while we improve research quality and try to really inculcate research culture right from the beginning, we also have to give very, very serious attention for compromise research ethics, which India is really looked upon by the world. And I hope that with the new initiative, and I'm happy that PSA office has come out with a new policy on research ethics and scientific research and academic integrity. With all this, I'm sure with NEP, we will move in right direction we are already in, but more rapidly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan. That was a very valuable summary of what is happening now in our ecosystem, but also where we need to go, what are our strong points, what are our stress points, and how we need to address them. Research ethics and research quality both need to be strengthened substantially, and that's something which is good to see going forward. Dr. Anurag Kumar.
Thank you for inviting me to speak here. I have just completed 6 years as the head of the ISC, and a lot of what I'm going to say today will be from the perspective I've developed during these years and even before that. It's already been said by Professor Vijay Raghavan and the others in this panel how important research is as an integral part of a university. Not only does research lead to knowledge creation, but research also helps us teach better. I know that I'm a better teacher because I have the research area that I teach in. Only in terms of conducting effective research in universities, and we already heard some figures from Dr. Patwardhan, culture is all about culture, culture and culture and culture. So I'm going to address culture in 4 different areas. In fact, I had slides which I had prepared, but I'll speak from my slides. I'm going to discuss culture in 4 areas. These 4 areas are the culture of research funding, the culture of faculty evaluation, the industry academia interaction culture, and finally, the local ecosystem that the university exists in. The ecosystem in the university and around the university. I think all of these matter to promote high quality research in a university. Let me start by the culture of research funding. I'm going to say a few things that when we set up the NRF, when we fund research in our country, we should adhere to these principles. We should base funding decisions only on the scientific quality of proposals. No other considerations should be brought to bear when funding proposals. The funding provided must be sufficient to support the proposed work and should be given to the researcher in at most 1 or 2 installments. All projects must be evaluated for quality output. Poorly performing PIs must not be easily funded again. We should fund high-risk research rather than routine established incremental topics. The NSF in the US has a very important practice of developing emerging research topics through intense expert workshops, which are held near NSF somewhere in the US. And this should be adopted. So by this process, we should weed out the more incremental and traditional topics and bring in new topics to fund through our funding ecosystem. Also, a very important system that is there in many other parts of the world is the startup grants. When a new assistant professor starts working in a university, he or she should not have to run around to get large amounts of money to begin their work. ISC recognized this quite some time back, and in recent years, we have actually been giving grants as large as 3 to 4 crores if a new faculty member requires them. Now, it is very challenging to do this. So I would like, if possible, that either the NRF or the MHRD can bring in provisions by which, just like they fund scholarships, they can also fund startup grants for new faculty members. I move on to the next topic of the process of researcher evaluation. It's very well known that people shape their working styles to conform to the evaluation criteria. Are heavily towards just counting. We count publications, we count the number of PhDs you produced, we count the number of awards and fellowships you have, and the counting goes on and on. Further, we only respect individual contribution. We don't respect the fact that people can work in groups and contribute a lot. And in fact, this criterion even pervades the way we evaluate people for awards and fellowships. In fact, it has become such that a young assistant professor is faced with 12 short-term goals in terms of these young scientists and Bhatnagar awards and so on so, rather than have the sights set on long-term, highly risky goals. So hence, the faculty members that I've seen around tend to work for these short-term goals, piling up counts rather than really looking for some risky problems to work on. Also, people tend to avoid collaborations because collaborations take them away from the immediate task of producing one more paper. If you collaborate, it takes time, you have to travel, you have to deal with different cultures, and so somehow we don't respect the culture of collaboration, which is so important for doing good work nowadays. You also need to find ways to assess impact rather than volume. We tend to respect volume too much. This is not easy to do. IISc began a system of only asking for 5 papers from the candidates who apply for jobs or who apply for a promotion. IISc also started a system of tenure review several years back, and today our systems are aligned just as with the way things are done in other countries. Assistant professors go through 3 or 4 reviews before they come up for a tenure peer review. The third point I want to address is the importance of government, industry, academia interaction. This triangle, which is so strong in many countries, including countries to the east of us, is fairly weak in our country. We pride ourselves on the information technology industry, but this is primarily a service industry. You don't have to look very far. Look at the US, even look at China, where companies like Baidu and Tencent and Alibaba have far exceeded our own information technology industry and are driving AI, ML, and so on in that country, whereas we are still struggling to build our own products here. The fourth point that I'd like to address, my last point, is the importance of the local ecosystem. The ecosystem extends from the laboratory to the institution to the local city which the institution resides in. You must insist that all laboratories are 100% safe. All equipment runs. All equipment has spare parts and maintenance contracts and have consumables supplied so that the assistant professor, the professor, does not have to stop the work because of the lack of an equipment or an equipment breakdown. Second thing is that the kind of support that the best institutions in the world provide for their faculty is not available to our faculty here. I was looking at the Caltech website, 300 faculty members, almost 4,000 support staff, including postdocs, of course. In MIT, 1,000 faculty members have about 12,000 staff working for them. All very professional. Everybody does what they're supposed to do. Things just work. So we must give our top faculty, our top class faculty, the uninterrupted, deep thinking time that they would need and support their work in the best possible way. Only then can we get the best out of the young faculty whom we hire from the best places around the world. Finally, it's very important that the local academia, research lab, and industry work together. I'll just give you my last point here, a quote from what I just read about Boston when I was preparing for this talk. One key factor in Boston's rise in biotechnology is the area's academic resources, which are second to none. Harvard Medical School, MIT Whitehead Institute, MIT's Computational Assistant Biology Laboratory, Tufts, and so on. Boston's many universities are a talent pipeline, and most of the area's biotech company founders are graduates or professors from Harvard, MIT, or the top universities. Besides that, laboratories and universities, Boston's biotech industry, are also backed up by laboratories and hospitals and large pharma companies. Having top hospitals not only provides more research facilities, but also more disease study opportunities. There are many stories like this. You can go to Melbourne, you can go to Austin, you can go to the Bay Area. I think Delhi and Bangalore and Pune should become I think the PSA already has a vision like that, strong clusters of industry, academia, and research laboratories. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anurag Kumar. This has been very valuable, particularly your comparison with global benchmarks and how we can attain them over here. I'd like to now ask a couple of interventions. Three people have asked for interventions. The Vice Chancellor of Tezpur University, then the Vice Chancellor of Central University, Hyderabad, and then the VC of Punjab University, Chandigarh. VC Tezpur, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Professor Vijayaraghavan, for giving us an opportunity to share that platform. And we are extremely happy to be participating in this particular session, which talks about catalyzing quality research. And I'm sure as Manjul Bhargav has narrated about the National Research Foundation that has been planned to guide and monitor the research from one single platform. And I'm sure this platform is going to make efforts during the implementation time, coordination between the science funding agencies, a lot of them, DSV, DPT, ICMR, ICR, and CSR, etc., as they have a larger mandate to address the scientific research and to identify whether the National Research Foundation will cater to the universities only or for other research institutes and IITs and NITs and all other institutes are also is something which I may be clarified through the process. And in our opinion, there is a need to set national priorities of when we are setting up some goals for the National Foundation. I don't know. And Also, it may be useful to have, we feel that it is better to set, it may be useful to set national priorities of social relevance, and also the research culture that you, Professor Vijayaraghavan has emphasized, and also has been talked about by Anurag a few minutes before, to put a special team to motivate, guide, and handhold young researchers across the universities. And we should also find a way to avoid significant overlap in the research that happens in different institutions. And when it comes to the research culture, which is a very important issue that you have highlighted and also Anurag has highlighted, it's not that easy in universities to emulate the culture that we have in institutes like Institute of Science, like NCVS, like JNC, all these centers where the research culture is inbuilt. And in spite of all that, and I'm very happy to see that Professor Patwardhan has highlighted about the certain universities which have done so well so far, crossing certain benchmarks, and we are happy that we are also part of that in Hyderabad. And as an institution today, we are looking beyond certain things like as an institution of eminence, now we are looking a little beyond the other experiment, the efforts that we have made so far. As an institution to build a research culture, we have started encouraging youngsters with startup grants and international travel support, and also to some extent some project grants through the Potential for Excellence programs and all. And we have been cautious in inducting the right kind of faculty, and we are encouraging enough of collaborations both within India and abroad. And some of these
Thank
things
you, Dr.
have
Appara. I have to interrupt now.
Yes.
Dr. Appara, I have to interrupt now. If you don't mind, we will move on to Punjab University VC, as we have just a couple of minutes left, and I want to give him an opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very, very much for your intervention.
Right.
VC Punjab University, please.
Thank you very much, Raghavan sir, for giving me the opportunity. Yet very quickly, I will sum up the entire thing by my observation in this regard. I am very happy with this NEP 2020. The reason being that since I am a management student, I observed that the entire policy framework is full of the opportunity, and it would be a fundamental shift from the in the different domain of the primary education to the higher research institutions. I will start the number one thing from which our Honorable Prime Minister of India touched. Now it is now our part to look into that. अब हमको जो है इम्प्लीमेंटेशन पार्ट को हमको देखना है, क्योंकि यहाँ पर जितने जो है एकेडमिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर वाइस चांसलर्स हैं, नाउ इट इज टाइम टू डिलीवर. अब हमको काम करके दिखाने की जरूरत है, एंड फॉर दैट पर्पस देयर मस्ट बी वेरी कंप्लीट, वेरी aggressive type of strategy for getting the work done. Number one. Number two is that for getting the work done to achieve the target, we have to very clear roadmap. और जब हम रोड मैप की बात करेंगे तो हमारे विजन जो है एकदम क्लियर होनी चाहिए कि पर्टिकुलर यूनिवर्सिटी के थ्रस्ट पॉइंट क्या है, उनको क्या करना है. फॉर एग्जांपल माय यूनिवर्सिटी इज वेरी रिच इन द रिसर्च एंड इनोवेशन. तो अगर इसके अलावा हम कहीं दूसरे पर हम शिफ्ट करेंगे तो निश्चित रूप से हम उतना बढ़िया नहीं कर पाएंगे, बिकॉज वी नीड अ लॉट ऑफ अदर रिसोर्सेज. But it doesn't mean I am ignoring the other discipline of knowledge. The next thing that I want to tell you, sir, now I fully agree with the opinion given by Honorable Prime Minister. Now it is the time to think over the autonomy. And if you are talking at the autonomy, then at the same time, your responsibility goes more ahead in terms of the quality. हमको जो वर्ल्ड के जो वर्ल्ड फेम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है उसमें अपना नाम दर्ज करना पड़ेगा. मैं इस सभा के माध्यम से कहना चाहूंगा कि ऑर्गेनाइजर प्रोफेसर डीपी सिंह साधुवाद के पात्र हैं, कितना बढ़िया आयोजन किए, और हमारे माननीय एचआरडी मिनिस्टर प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर पोखरियाल साहब का भी हम लोगों को शुक्रगुजार होना चाहिए कि इतनी बड़ी गैदरिंग पहली बार शायद हो रही है इतिहास में. और अंत में हमें कहना चाहेंगे सर, ह्यूमैनिटीज के चूंकि हम स्टूडेंट हैं, ये जो मेघालय की जो शिक्षा व्यवस्था थी, now we will, the next generation will forget that. So it is really a very strong step in the on the way of the Atmanirbhar Bharat. अब हम सबको इकट्ठे होकर के भारत को आत्मनिर्भर जो भी हमारे रिसोर्सेज हैं उनके माध्यम से आगे बढ़ने की जरूरत है. थैंक यू वंस अगेन प्रोफेसर राघवन साहब फॉर गिविंग मी अपॉर्चुनिटी. थैंक यू सो मच. पंजाब विश्वविद्यालय परिवार आप सभी लोगों को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता है. और इस पॉलिसी का हमारा पूरा पंजाब विश्वविद्यालय, हम एकदम जो है यहाँ पर पाकिस्तान के एकदम नजदीक हम लोग हैं, फिर भी बेस्ट हम कर रहे हैं. हम पटवर्धन साहब का भी धन्यवाद देंगे कि उन्होंने जो है हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी का नाम लिया. वाकई में हमारी रेटिंग बहुत अच्छी है, हमारे वैज्ञानिक बहुत अच्छे हैं. थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you very much. We have to close now. I'll just ask one brief comment. Professor Manish Kaji from NIT Trichy, do you have any comments to make? Because I'd like to hear from a diverse set of people from multiple locations, and your views as a leading institution would be very valuable. Professor Saji.
My request is all institutions should start collaborating with industry, start with faculty and student exchange with industry, and then later on move on to an MOU, or with research institutions for projects and consultancy. And we should open doors to industry to use our institutional facilities, which will facilitate more research and will lead into collaborative research leading to high quality publications along with industry and research organization, which is missing here.
Thank you very much. The industry link is well taken. We have to conclude our session, but we will carry on discussions on these topics with all of you separately. I'd like to thank my fellow panelists, Professor Manjul Bhargav, Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan, and Professor Anurag Kumar. Thank you all very, very much.